Cameron Brink was also kind of giving Aaliyah Boston a hard time. I mean, Cameron Brink stuffed Caitlyn in the beginning of the game, afterwards saying, "Get that ish out of here." But Cameron Brink, I think, did have a bit of a point to prove herself. As in the last post-game interview, Lynn Roberts, the coach, did talk about wanting to see more from Cameron Brink after Cam fouled, I think, what was it, like 4 or 5 times?
That block by Cameron Brink on Caitlin Clark, where she told her to "get that out of here," was supposed to be the biggest moment of the night. But instead, the Indiana Fever left Crypto.com arena with a win. Caitlin Clark got her first technical foul of the season, and Kate Martin was seen hugging the player who had just beaten her new team. There is a lot to talk about, so let's start from the beginning.
But you know, the Sparks were just shooting like horrendously. It was like brick after brick, then airball. Kelsey
the first
Plum
3 minutes
airballs
of the game, Caitlin Clark already had a block, a steal, an assist, and 7 points. She also lost the ball once, but her reaction showed how focused she is this season. Right after the turnover, she attacked the basket and scored, then stole the inbound pass and scored again. That is high-level, aggressive basketball. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Sparks started the game terribly. Kelsey Plum, who was brought in to help lead the team, even missed badly from three-point range. Los Angeles ended the game shooting only 13% from deep, making just 2 of 15 three-pointers. It is very hard to win at home when you shoot that poorly, no matter who you are playing.
A three-point shot pretty early in the game was Mo Billings.
More good ball movement. Billings with a bucket from the corner.
And I was super pumped, but then she just kept missing these wide open layups. And Mo Billings also had 3 turnovers. But she did also set a lot of good screens.
Kayla Timpson hitting that corner 3 was one of the few bright moments from the Indiana Fever bench, and it matters because the team has spent the whole preseason focusing on defense. Head coach Stephanie White has repeatedly said that defense will define this team's identity. After the 1-point loss to the Dallas Wings, where both teams scored over 100 points and played very little defense, this game was the first real test. Indiana's defense looked better, even if it was not perfect. The Los Angeles Sparks committed 19 turnovers, and Indiana forced them into difficult shots throughout the game. Still, some of the same problems from the Dallas game remained. The team missed open layups, rotations were slow, and outside of a few good moments, the bench still did not provide consistent production. That is a problem the coaching staff is still trying to fix.
At one point, apparently, according to what the broadcaster said, that Erica Wheeler walked away and said, "How am I supposed to defend her?" on, I think, what it was, the third foul in like the 30 seconds. And Caitlyn was on a team with Erica Wheeler, so she kind of tries to, I think, jokingly say, "Hey, you hit my throat right here." But there also did seem to be a few calls that weren't called. Like there was a landing space foul that went uncalled. But Caitlin Clark did receive
frustration
her first.
On Erica Wheeler's face was real, and it reflected a bigger issue throughout the game. The referees called a lot of fouls all night. The Indiana Fever were called for 19 fouls, while the Los Angeles Sparks were called for 25. Sparks head coach Lynn Roberts was clearly frustrated on the sideline. Wheeler, who played for Indiana last season and now plays for Los Angeles, was defending Caitlin Clark when she picked up 3 fouls in about 30 seconds. The broadcast showed her walking back to the bench, looking confused about how anyone is supposed to guard Clark without getting called for fouls. What makes her reaction important is that Wheeler knows Clark's game very well because they were teammates last season. So when she questioned the officiating, it felt less like complaining and more like a player with inside experience pointing out a bigger issue with how the game was being called.
Second game of the season, after arguing with a ref, which incidentally does happen to be a ref that she was jawing with last season, and in her post-game interview, she did talk about the officiating and she did talk about the tech.
Yeah, I mean, the refs are calling it, and like I told you earlier today, I appreciate that. I think I deserve the technical they gave me. Obviously, they called a lot of fouls tonight, but it's going to even out, so you got to give them credit. They're doing the right thing, and we just move forward.
Now, Lexi has yet to blossom.
This was the moment when Caitlin Clark received her first technical foul of the 2026 season in only the second game. After the game, she said she deserved the technical and admitted that the referees called the game fairly for both teams. That response was very different from some of her reactions last season, when the officiating around her became a major topic of discussion. One important detail is that the referee who gave her the technical is the same official she had several tense moments with last year. That history is hard to ignore. But instead of criticizing the officials after the game, Clark stayed calm and gave a respectful answer. It seems clear that this season she plans to handle things differently by letting her play speak for itself. That showed again when she finally got a shooting foul call on a jump shot, something she rarely received last season. The Los Angeles Sparks challenged the call, but the challenge failed and the foul stood. It may seem like a small moment in the box score, but it could be an important sign that the league is starting to officiate her differently.
She missed a wide-open layup, and immediately after, fouls Kelsey Plum. Now, was that an egregious flop by Kelsey Plum? Yeah, but she did put 2 hands on her, and it was a foul. She did, however, manage to get 2 assists in the 5 minutes that she was in, and she even got a rebound off the glass. Demirs Dantas and Michaela Timpson.
Evan Johnson is only 20 years old and was getting her first real minutes with the Indiana Fever, so moments like this are part of the learning process. She missed an open layup and then fouled Kelsey Plum on the next possession. Plum exaggerated the contact a bit, but it was still a foul, and Johnson will need to learn how to handle situations like that. The positive part is that even in just 5 minutes on the court, Johnson still finished with 2 assists and a rebound. That showed composure and confidence from a young player who was not afraid of the moment, even when things were not going perfect.
But man, people were so pissed about that, and they even challenged the call. Lynn Roberts lost the challenge though, but I still want to see that CC logo bomb back. And I know that Caitlin wants it too. When she finally made her first 3-pointer of the game, way in the 4th quarter, she had one of those like weird, like quirky Caitlin reactions where she just starts hitting her head.
That small tap on the side of Caitlin Clark's head said a lot. She was only 1 for 7 from 3-point range, and through the first 2 games her outside shot has not looked completely right. Even so, she is still shooting well overall because she has been attacking defenders and scoring off the dribble. The deep 3-pointers that became her trademark last season have not fully returned yet, and there may be a reason for that. Last year, Clark dealt with a groin injury that she never really discussed publicly, and much of her shooting power comes from her lower body. So when she finally made a 3-pointer in the 4th quarter and tapped the side of her head, it looked more like a sign of recognition than frustration. It was as if she knew the shot was starting to come back, along with the leg strength behind it. Once her 3-point shot becomes consistent again, defenses will have to guard the Indiana Fever very differently. The rest of the roster also had important moments. Sophie Cunningham bounced back from a quiet first game with 12 points and 7 rebounds, while also showing leadership by talking to teammates during defensive mistakes. Kelsey Mitchell scored 23 points on efficient shooting, which is exactly the kind of offense Indiana needs from her every night. But Aaliyah Boston struggled, scoring only 4 points in 23 minutes before fouling out in the 4th quarter. When she left the game, the Los Angeles Sparks made a late run that almost changed the outcome. That exposed a major weakness for Indiana because the team does not have a reliable backup center. Michaela Timpson played limited minutes, and Damiris Dantas had defensive problems. If Boston gets into foul trouble later in the season or in the playoffs, Indiana could have a serious problem in the middle of the floor.
Caitlin Clark beats a team that Kate Martin is on because Kate Martin has recently gotten signed to the Sparks on a development contract after she was waived by the Valkyries, which was pretty sad. I know that Kate was very shaken up about it, but in any case, every time the Fever went head-to-head with the Valkyries last season, they lost, and every time they went head-to-head with the Aces the season before, the season that Kate Martin was on the Aces, the Fever lost. So this is technically the first time that Caitlin has beat a team that Kate Martin is on. Now, Kate Martin didn't suit up, and she is on the development squad, but they did have a nice reunion.
The more interesting storylines around the Indiana Fever right now involves Kate Martin. She was originally drafted by the Las Vegas Aces, later selected by the Golden State Valkyries in the expansion draft, then released earlier this season before joining the Los Angeles Sparks on a development contract. She did not play in this game, but her connection to Caitlin Clark still became part of the story. The two were teammates at University of Iowa and remained close friends after helping lead Iowa to a Final Four run. Before this game, every time Clark's Fever faced a team Martin was connected to, Indiana had lost. Even though Martin was inactive, the streak finally ended after the Fever won. After the game, the two shared a hug on the court, which shows how personal and connected the WNBA still feels compared to larger leagues. This game also revealed a lot about where Indiana stands early in the season. Head coach Stephanie White has made defense the focus since training camp began. The defense looked somewhat improved against Los Angeles after the high-scoring loss to the Dallas Wings, but it still does not fully define the team. The biggest issue remains the lack of depth in the frontcourt. When Aaliyah Boston fouled out, the Sparks immediately made a late push, exposing Indiana's lack of a reliable backup center. Lexi Hull also struggled, scoring only 1 point in 13 minutes despite being paid like an important rotation player. Indiana does not need huge scoring nights from her, but they do need more consistent production. Another question surrounds Chadori Walker-Kimbrough, who has not played in either game despite being an experienced veteran. That is a situation the team may eventually need to explain. There is also growing attention on Indiana's offense. For the last 2 seasons, much of the team's attack was built around the pick and roll between Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. In this game, they barely used it. It seems like the coaching staff may be trying to expand the offense and avoid becoming predictable, but the pick and roll is still one of the most effective plays the team has. Changing the offense completely instead of building around that strength could become a major storyline if the trend continues. For the Sparks, Kelsey Plum scored 25 points but also committed 5 turnovers. Cameron Brink brought energy off the bench with 11 points, 3 blocks, and 5 rebounds in limited minutes. After a rough first game, Brink responded aggressively, including her big block on Caitlin Clark. That toughness is something Los Angeles needs, but energy alone will not solve their problems. Shooting just 13% from three-point range is not sustainable if they want to compete consistently. Clark's final stat line showed how much her game is evolving. She finished 9 of 17 from the field despite shooting only 1 of 7 from 3, while also adding 9 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, a block, and a technical foul. The technical foul was not necessarily a bad sign. It looked more like competitiveness and confidence. The bigger concern is still the outside shooting, especially since stretches like this have happened before when she was dealing with physical issues. The positive sign is that she continues attacking the basket, finishing through contact, and creating offense for teammates. Her three-point shooting will likely return eventually because that has always been one of her strengths. In the end, this game highlighted both Indiana's potential and its weaknesses. The Fever won, but they still struggled whenever Boston was off the floor. Clark received a shooting foul call that actually held up after review, Brink got her highlight moment with the block, and the Sparks still nearly made the game close late despite playing a sloppy and foul-heavy game. The biggest questions moving forward are whether Indiana can fix its frontcourt depth, whether the coaching staff will continue moving away from the Clark-Boston pick-and-roll, and how officials will handle Clark as the season continues.